Hello and welcome to Kalamazoo and You. This is a program where we have conversations with City of Kalamazoo staff on important issues, events, and activities. I'm Mike Smith. I'm the Communication Manager for the City of Kalamazoo and your host. And on this segment, we're discussing Imagine Kalamazoo 2035, the city's strategic vision and master plan. And with us to discuss IK 2035 is Christina Anderson. She is the city planner for the City of Kalamazoo. Welcome, Christina.
Hi, Mike.
Okay. Now, tell us what about IK 2035 is, what it all means.
Sure. Imagine Kalamazoo 2035, IK 2035, is our community conversation. It's our outreach and engagement activities that help us understand the direction that the community would like the city to go over the next 10 years. The initial big vision documents that come out of this conversation are the city's strategic vision. So we're updating that document. It's now about 10 years old. And the city's master plan, also about 10 years old and ready to be updated. The strategic vision is a high-level document. It has some high-level goals of which staff then tie requests for budget, programming, new policies to, and that's about 30,000 feet up. The master plan is a little closer to the ground. It's, I call it 10,000 feet up. And it's a little more focused on strategies and implementation of those high-level goals. It mostly focuses on land use and transportation. Really what I like to think about the master plan is that it impacts anything that impacts us as we move throughout our day. It's our physical world. It's our mobility. It's how we move. It is where we live. It's the parks and that we go to visit, the restaurants and shops that we frequent. It's what makes up our physical daily world is in the master plan.
Now, IK 2025 was adopted in 2017, so now we're into IK 2035. So what has occurred in terms of community planning and policy process, achievements and all that?
Sure, from the last 10 years or almost 10 years, quite a bit. We got through, I don't have the percentage off the top of my head, but above 90% of the action items in the master plan have been achieved since October of 2017 when the master plan was approved. These include things like updating our zoning code. We have been slowly updating our zoning code, which is that document that guides development that happens throughout the city. So we have been working on that. We have moved forward successfully with the two-way conversion of streets in and around downtown. There was a very clear vision in the strategic vision from 10 years ago that talked about a connected city. The master plan and the engagement we heard from the master plan really dove in a little deeper to talk about the need for two-way streets and streets for all, so they work for the entire community regardless of how you move through it. We took that, we did some additional outreach and engagement to get into some details. What would the streets look like? How do they serve everybody? Took that, went and got some grant money, quite a bit of grant money from the bipartisan infrastructure law, enough for both engineering, design, and construction. So that's a good example of how we move from a high-level goal to a strategy that's in the master plan, and then how staff then takes that over 10 years to implement that strategy and ultimately the initial goal.
Now with IK 25, we have 4 phases of planning and implementation, I should say. So talk about these 4 phases, what they mean, and their impact in terms of the transitional and transforming the community as well.
Sure. Both in IK 2025 and Imagine Kalamazoo 2035, the process that we're in now, we set up our this conversation in a number of phases. So it is 3 engagement phases. So Imagine It, which kicked off in August of 24 and ran through winter of 2025. We took the information that we heard from the community during that phase and went back and said, did we hear you right? Let's dive in a little deeper, and that's the Plan It phase. And that ran from midwinter 2025 through early summer of 2025. We've spent the last now almost 6 months really diving into what we heard from the community during those 2 phases. It was more than 4,000 voices that helped shape the comments that we heard. And so we've spent, again, about the last 6 months going through all of that to develop the city's draft strategic vision goal statements and guiding principles. The document, the strategic vision document, should be released in sometime midwinter for the community to review, make final edits, and then take forward to the City Commission. In the meantime, we enter the third engagement phase, which we call Design It. This takes us to the master plan level. So we're moving from high level, broad goals and outcomes to the strategies, which could be a plan, a program, a policy, a project that implements that strategy. And so over the next 3 months, we're going to be doing engagement around the city, which we'll talk about in a second, to get to that master plan level of detail. The other two phases are draft it, right? We have to draft the plan. We're kind of partially in that as it relates to the strategic vision, but we'll move into that for the master plan later this spring and then adopt it. The strategic vision document is the city's. We're not required by anyone to have one. We found over the last 10 years that it was a helpful document to have that community vision laid out and really clearly spell out work for staff over that time period. The master plan is a document we're required to have by the state of Michigan. We have a master plan because we have a zoning code. So if you have a zoning code, you have a master plan. The thought behind that is that the master plan lays out future land use, where different types of development could go, what that should look like. And then the zoning code sets up the code or the kind of the law to get there. And so that's why those two are linked. And so must have a master plan, and it must be updated every 10 years, which is why we're doing the update now.
Now, what are people in the community looking for overall from the city? Sure.
So that's a pretty broad question, and it really depends on what category you're looking into more deeply. We have, back in 2025, the strategic vision had 10 high-level goals. Imagine Kalamazoo 2035 today, we have 8 goals, and those range from housing to transportation, the environment, economic vitality, community trust and safety, and so forth. And so each of those goals has a slightly different set of outcomes based on that topic. What's different this time around from Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 is that in addition to those strategic vision goals, we also have a series of 5 guiding principles. These are things that must work their way into every bit of work that we do at the city. And so there are 5 of those. The first is diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, which stood on its own back in 2025 as its own goal, but kind of felt a little siloed, and it wasn't as clear how those principles wove their way through all of city work. So it became a guiding principle. Economic mobility, the thought that there's always the opportunity in Kalamazoo to move forward, move up, have greater generational wealth to pass on to your family, have new opportunities for work. So economic mobility became part of our guiding principles. Sustainability, of course, thinking forward, we must make sure that we're a resilient community. Operational excellence, which is really an inward-facing principle. At our heart, we're a city, we have core services, and we need to make sure that we are providing those services to the best of our ability, which is tied to the principle of operational excellence. And then finally, continuous engagement. We have really focused on engagement since Imagine Kalamazoo 2025. That process was the first of how we do our work now. We continue to improve on that and continue to find ways to have the conversations continue not only when there's a project, but also in kind of those non-essential times to make sure that we're building and keeping those relationships with the community.
Now, the design it phase is where the vision becomes action.
That's a great way of describing it.
Yeah.
We really go out and think about those high-level goals at the block level, at the neighborhood level, and that's really what most of us think about, right? We can hear a strategic vision goal like housing, accessible housing for all, but what that means is not always perfectly clear, and that's why we go through and think about it at the ground level, at the neighborhood level, at the block level. What does it mean here? And so Design It is that opportunity to ask those questions to all of our neighborhoods, and we do this by going out to the community. We have 15 neighborhood meetings scheduled between mid-January and mid-March across neighborhoods where we go out and ask in a series of open house style meetings a number of questions based on these goals and what that looks like, what those goals look like in this neighborhood. Whether you are the north side, east side, West Nedge Hill, Hill and Brook, what does that look like here? And these meetings are quite fun, right? I mean, it's really an opportunity to dig into issues that are different in each neighborhood. They're open houses, so residents can come, business owners can come as they have time within the window. They can stay as long as they want. We have folks who just pop in because they really want to engage on a topic. They go to that table, they do the exercise, they have a conversation with a facilitator, and then they can choose to leave. Or they can go around and hit every table and stay the entire time and really have some great conversations about the neighborhood that they live or work or play in.
You often hear conversations or people in the community say, well, I want to get involved, or I never was invited to be involved, but anybody can show up to these meetings, is that correct?
Absolutely. Young, old, everyone in between. The questions, the exercises that we have are designed to work for the community, and everyone has a slightly different story to tell. One of the things that was most impactful from when we did this style meeting back in Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 is it was a table talking about transportation and challenges in the transportation network. And we had a young student who lived in Vine, and we had a map of the Vine neighborhood, and with a marker, he mapped his route to school and talked about places where he doesn't feel comfortable crossing on his own. Talked about places where the lighting was dark and it didn't feel very comfortable. And these are the comments that we collect and then think about, okay, well, what improvements does that intersection need? Is this intersection setup commonly found in other places, such that this is a change that would happen in many locations? Well, we have issues with lighting. Is it because we don't have a street light? Is it because the trees are blocking the street light? Is it because the bulb is out, right? I mean, there are lots of different things that we get to think through to make those changes. And so it's really an opportunity to bring people together to talk about what they know, which is their community, and give us feedback, which then we can turn into strategies that are citywide.
And in closing, what are the key messages you want people to know about Imagine Kalamazoo 2035 and its impact on the entire community?
Sure. These plans guide all of city staff's work for the next 10 years. And so this is the opportunity for the community to come out and help shape that work. Master plans are long-range documents. There are activities in the master plan that may occur in the next year or two, and then there are things that will take nearly 10 years, the life of the plan, to get off the ground, either because of cost or the number of steps that need to happen before we get to that ultimate activity. But now's the time to shape that. And again, we try to make it as easy as possible for the community to join us in this conversation. So again, we'll be going out in neighborhood meetings. Before the end of this month, we will have a companion set of activities available online. We ask that if anybody needs accommodation to attend the meetings, that they reach out either through 311 or there's a website, hello@kalamazooCity.org. We really want to encourage everyone to attend and join us in the conversation. You can find where your neighborhood meeting is by going to the city's website and adding IK 2035 onto the end of the web page address. And all the meetings are listed there, times, dates, locations. Again, each one is somewhere different based on what geographic location we're in that evening. There's 1 to 2 a week between now and mid-March. In early April, we'll be having a multiple-day downtown Imagine Kalamazoo event where we'll have speakers come in. We'll likely do some walking audits, maybe cycling audit, really dive into business needs, thinking about housing in downtown, and everything in between. And so we haven't scheduled that yet, but it's coming. It'll be in early April.
Okay, and we want everybody to come out to these events. Very important.
Absolutely. please do. Again, you can find all the information that you need at the city's website, www.kalamazooCity.org/IK2035. We have also shared flyers with all of the neighborhood associations and neighborhood contacts. There are flyers in local businesses. We are working with KPS to help share this opportunity out, working with businesses to put flyers in windows. So there should be information, hopefully almost everywhere you look.
Okay, and Christina Anderson, thank you very much for providing this information for the public as well. This ends our segment, and thank you, and we'll see you next time.